You're listening to Archaeopolitics, a Harry Potter reread podcast focusing on politics in the wizarding world. I'm Adri, your half-vaccinated host and recovering English major.
Oh, man. I'm Helene, your co-host, producer, and person jealous of Adri for being half-vaccinated, but also short hair haver because I got my first haircut since May and I feel like a brand new person.
I was going to say, I think you got your hair, Helene, because now we have video. Very excited about the video part and excited about the haircut. Did you know that that's exactly the haircut that I've been contemplating for the last 6 months as, like, my hair gets tangled?
You did on the last episode mention that you were thinking about doing, like, a bob. I don't know if this constitutes as a bob, although it is shorter than what I thought they were going to do, so I am still kind of adjusting.
It's like a lob. It's a long bob is what it's called.
Lob. Is that
a lob? No, for reals.
That's the term? I didn't know
that's the term. You have a lob.
Perfect. Yeah, it definitely was not, like, I thought it was going to be at least, like, maybe an inch or two longer, but I love it. I really love it.
It looks fantastic on you.
Shorter than I was expecting, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Did you also color your hair?
Nope.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Somehow it just looks really dark today. Usually you have more of a reddish tint to you.
It reflects the color of my soul.
So. Oh, okay. You know what? Makes sense. It's like a mood ring.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes do the same thing because sometimes they're like green and sometimes they're brown. They're hazel, technically, but they'll change color.
I thought you were going to say sometimes they're green, other times they're fire red like the depths of hell.
And other times they're black, like my soul.
All right. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 26 of Order of the Phoenix, Seen and Unforeseen.
Yes, this is the one where the Gryffindor Quidditch team loses their match miserably. Harry's article about Voldemort and the Quibbler is released. Harry has his first ever semi-successful occlumency lesson with Snape, and Umbridge sacks Trelawney, but Dumbledore lets her stay in the castle and hires Ferenz in her place.
And this is the place where we thank our lovely patrons!
Woo!
Why? Because patrons let us keep going, fund the podcast. Because the show has to pay some fees that are not even associated with you or I, Helene. This is a labor of love. But also, the internet is not free.
No, you thought the internet was free, listeners, but heads up, the internet's not free.
Patrons get to join, like, an exclusive club where you get extra bonus content, access to a super secret Facebook group, among many other things.
Yes. So if you want access to this super secret club, head over to patreon.com/acchiopolitics, where $2 a month will get you access to bonus content for every episode, and the $5 and $10 a month tiers are going to get you physical rewards every 3 months.
And you might be thinking, but why? And what are you going to talk about that is so important? Well, let me enlighten you, listeners. Today, at least, we are going to be talking about Harry Potter's women of color characters. Because March is, as many of you know, International Women's Month.
Yeah. And while there are many badass women in the series, we thought it would be really interesting to deep dive into those that are particularly women of color because they don't get talked about enough.
Well, you know, as most women of color are not.
Exactly.
They
deserve a little love.
Mask the pain, you know?
Yeah, they deserve a little love and recognition, so hopefully we'll be able to give that to them in our Patreon exclusive content segment this week. But for now, it's time. I was going to say this month, and I was like, nope, it's this week. So
it's just this. Well, I mean, we can make it a month, I guess, but we are going to run out of women to talk about real quickly. Because, you know, we have like maybe 5 total.
Yeah. Well, for now, though, we're going to switch over to our Potter Watch segment where we're going to discuss some of the latest news in the United States and some in England.
Listeners, I hope that you too laughed. I really do. Helene, it's been a week. We passed like I'm part of Congress. Congress passed a 1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. It's on its way. We're getting those
Yay!
stimmies. Very excited about those stimmies.
Stimmies! I'm so ready for my stimulus check. This one is going directly into a vacation fund because I deserve some happiness after all of this crap.
May that vacation fund include a trip to San Antonio in the future, perhaps.
We shall see. The first one on the list. The first one on the list is Massachusetts. I'm gonna go visit Kat for her birthday if I can get
Ooh,
vaccinated in time. So we'll see.
exciting.
Yes, I
I
just can't
love
wait for a
it.
vacation. Do you have any fun plans for
Yeah,
your
no.
stimulus check?
Well, the stimmy is going either to debt or to a heretofore unannounced purchase of something for my birthday.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, all of my other stimulus checks went towards debt, and I really, if I was being a really, really responsible adult, this one probably would too. But
But you
I'm kind
live.
of over being a responsible adult for a minute. I need.
Same. I have some, some options as do all of us. I am fortunate enough to have still have a job throughout this entire pandemic, even though I did lose my job at the beginning of the pandemic last year.
Yeah, you did.
So I am fortunate enough to have found a job within 3 months, and
Yeah.
all was well. Was a dark 3 months, I will say, in between jobs. But yeah, so maybe debt, maybe a 35th birthday present. 35
Yeah.
is a big number. I feel like it's like a nice gift is required for my 35th.
I think that's a great idea.
Also, maybe I'll go to Puerto Rico. Who knows?
Yeah.
Speaking of other things other than the STEMI, uh, this actually, this COVID relief bill has a lot of really good social safety nets included in it that would not have passed under any other administration. And though those don't apply to me or probably you, I am very excited for people to finally get a little bit of relief.
Yeah. Do you know where they landed on the minimum wage? I don't know if that did they
It is
decide to
not
keep.
part of the it is not part of the
Okay.
package, no. But there are some really big concessions on unemployment and child credit that are going to be really really life changing for a lot of women of color who have women and it's been mostly women of color who have had to leave their jobs to take care of their children during the pandemic.
Good. Yeah. So many Americans like desperately needed this help. And like you mentioned, like I am extremely blessed to, not be relying on this money literally to live. But I am very well aware of the countless number of Americans who are suffering without this. So I am so very happy that this finally got passed.
Now, on to less happy news. Georgia is one of the many Republican led states who is restricting voter like who well they're not restricting voters, they are passing laws that will have the effect of restricting voting for the majority of for many people of color, specifically African Americans in the state.
It's just so sad that Republicans know they only can win if they cherry pick who actually gets to vote. If everyone got to vote, they knew they'd lose.
That's the thing with Republicans, right? Like they know they can only win if they rig the election in their favor, and when they don't win, they like to call like fraud because that's the only thing they know is they know how to do fraud. So they think anyone else winning against them must be through the same tactics that they used and not like a popular vote.
Yeah, it's really sad. I I've lost so much respect for the Republican Party in general since Trump. And now that Trump's gone, I think I might have even lost even more respect for them.
Oh,
Um,
they are still very much like enamored with Trump and are kissing his butt any opportunity they have. And newsflash, Trump just announced that all the money that his PAC gathers, he is now going to go trickle down to all Republicans. He's going to pick and choose, which in layman's terms, this is what it means, Helene. He's going to keep most of the money.
yeah, no, not
And
surprised.
like naive people are donating to his PAC and funding his lifestyle.
Yep.
So fun times in America.
Well, let's leave America for a little bit. And I did put
Excellent
this.
transition
Yeah, we're gonna hop on the boat to
across the
England.
pond.
Yes, we're gonna hop across the pond to England. And I thought we could just maybe just talk very briefly on Meghan and Harry's interview with Oprah and her allegations against the royal family. I will preface this entire conversation with I know I added this to the doc, but I actually didn't watch the interview or really have any interest in the royal family. I do know that I've learned lots from just being on Twitter, but I know that you are a little bit more versed in this, and I thought maybe you would be able to speak more to it, but I did think that we should at least talk about it.
It's like I canceled my normal 90-day fiance date with my husband and sat down in front of the TV to watch this interview on CBS for 2 hours.
Yeah, I do think I am eventually going to watch the interview,
It
but I
is
just haven't yet.
amazing. It is chef's kiss. Oprah is the greatest of all time, and we
She really is.
deserve, nay, we demand Oprah sit down with Britney.
Yeah, that would be good.
This is the interview that we demand.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of showed how much we like how much we as a human race are lacking since Oprah's TV show went off air.
Oh yeah, for sure. So okay, the biggest news out of all of it, right? I know you
Yeah.
haven't watched it, but you've probably seen this on Twitter was that Megan shared her suicidal ideations and feelings. The trigger, I'm sorry to have said that without a trigger warning.
And it's important to like that were because of like actions that were taken against her by the royal family and the institution or the firm or whatever.
So those ideations were fueled by the constant media attack of her, plus the way that the royal family was like, well, you can't go out of your house because you're everywhere right now, you're oversaturated. And she's like, I haven't left my house in 4 months, but these like stories keep coming up and you're like doing nothing to defend me. And she went to Kensington Palace HR, or the royal family's human resources department, and said, "Listen, I'm really struggling with this. I am having suicidal thoughts and ideations. I'm really worried that I am going to hurt myself." And they said, "We really empathize with you, but we can't do anything to help you because you are not a real member of the staff." And this comes from a family that is like that hid away any member who was not neurotypical. So I am not surprised
Yeah,
that
well, I mean,
they
didn't and Diana struggled with a lot of mental health issues during her time
and
as well.
she wasn't afforded any help. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Another so that's one of the biggest ones. The second one is that members of the royal family who were not named approached Prince Harry stating some concerns about the race, the not
The
the race,
presentation
the
of
phenotypical presentation, or
yeah,
like the skin tone of their unborn child, and what would that be like. Which, if you are from Latin America, you know you're not unfamiliar with that discussion among your family members about like how you have to marry lighter than yourself to better the race or whatever, which is stupid in so many. It's stupid. It's racist. I'm not gonna
well,
say
yeah,
colorism. It's fucking racist.
yeah,
Period. Even in Latin America and the Caribbean. And then another big, not surprise, but another impactful moment for me was when Harry was like, I thought I knew about this, but it wasn't until she and I were dating and then we're married where I realized the extent of the racism in England. And I didn't realize how trapped I was within this institution that uh, he said, like, they're really worried about the tabloids because the tabloids are the only thing kind of like keeping us in power. It's like a Wizard of Oz situation where it's like creating like this false thing, and they're worried that someone's going to peek behind the curtain and decide, oh, you're just a person. Fuck you. You don't get
yeah,
to live in those castles. So, because they have such a symbiotic and toxic relationship, the tabloid media and the
yeah,
royals, they decided to just throw Harry and Meghan under the bus
yeah,
to avoid getting called out for their own things. And it, turns out that a lot of the bad publicity Meghan got that wasn't racist, and it was, those that publicity they got of like, oh, she made Kate cry and that bullshit, was actually that Kate made her cry.
yeah,
So that it's turning everything that might make her sympathetic to her being the bully, and like people being,
yeah,
afraid to be around her. So yeah, it was a
yeah.
hard it was a hard interview in terms of like you could see they were trying to toe the line very carefully. They didn't say anything salacious, but they also were very firm and like, this is our truth and we're not afraid to speak it.
Yeah. It all culminated in Piers Morgan not leaving Great or Good Morning Britain, I think is what it was called.
It was very
Um,
powerful. Yes.
yeah, and I didn't. I think I recently learned. I think it was today actually. I learned that he went on a date with Meghan the same day she met Harry,
What
and
and I think the idea was like that she agreed to have drinks with him as a professional, and he Mr. Trump, like,
oh, so
he,
it wasn't even a date.
yeah.
Oh, I thought okay. So yeah, I thought that they like went on a date, but then she met Harry and obviously fell in love with him and married him and never called Piers again. Which fair, all valid choices, and if you meet the love of your life on the same day that you have a date with another guy, you do not owe the other guy like I mean, you could say like, "Hey, sorry, I met someone else. Bye." But like you really do not know the other the other guy.
Well, that's yeah, and so my understanding is that they had like a, like a, hey, yeah, let's have a drink, kind of like,
Yeah.
because we're like connections in the industry, and he took it as, oh, this is definitely a date, and she, in like her headspace, she's like, no, this just drinks with a colleague or a industry
Yeah.
connection. And how many times have women not been in that position where like a man wants to like a man misinterprets like cordiality from a professional woman with, I am definitely coming on to you.
Yeah. Men with big egos tend to have to deal with that quite a bit more often. Oh, every girl that smiles at me must want to fuck me. I don't know.
Big ego, big ego with a really low self-esteem, not a great
Right.
combo.
Yeah. So, he, I think it was pretty obvious that he had something against Megan ever since then. He's not ever really been kind to her in the media.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have you ever met any man who's been slighted, real or imaginary, by a woman?
I know, exactly. So, I mean, good riddance. See you later, peers. Hope we never have to hear from you again,
we
but we
we
probably
never
will.
wanted you in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Well, I think we're done.
yeah. We decided to sprinkle a little England in our Potter watch this week. So,
And there's much more going around the United States and the world, but in fairness, we're trying to keep this quite short.
yes,
And we are
exactly.
failing miserably at it already.
I think it's a good time to transition to our Hogwarts Debate Club segment, where we're going to reveal the politics that we chose for the chapter to each other, explain what they are, what they mean, and how they kind of relate directly to the chapter before we get into our deep dive discussion. So, what is the politic that you chose for this week, Adri?
So this week I chose the politics of leadership. And when I think about leadership, what I think about is how leadership is that quality where how we choose to lead others or even lead our lives, if we're being honest, says a lot about our internal character and values. So, for instance, in this chapter, we see some people in positions of power kind of duking it out, either with each other or with their subordinates, and trying to establish a baseline to move forward. So, we have Voldemort in Harry's mind, dream mind, and he's definitely not the greatest leader. He is like super
What?
afraid, super paranoid,
Hot take.
super hot take. He's demanding and he's just like rude, like just super rude. And honestly, not great qualities for a leader. Then like Dumbledore has like 29 contingency plans for all of Dolores's one plan and every every educational decree.
Yeah, their like discussion or argument at the end of the chapter was kind of like watching a game of chess.
Oh,
Like,
for it was like watching a like prosecutor who thinks that they've got the case locked and the defense being like, interesting you say that, have you thought of this counterpoint in the law that you
yeah,
wrote?
exactly.
Counterpoint, I schooled you. So that's kind of like the Dumbledore situation.
Yeah.
Umbridge, definitely ew. Like also in league, at almost the same level of Voldemort in terms of leadership qualities. And then we have Angelina, who is a very like thoughtful leader and also very stern and stubborn about her leadership. She's like, I'm not fucking wrong and you better not make me fucking wrong. And then we have, other examples of leadership in the chapter. I could go on and on and on and on,
Yeah.
but that's it. That's the tweet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I lots of different portrayals of leadership, good and bad, in this chapter for sure.
What about you?
Yeah, mine was vindication. So, vindication, when someone is vindicated, that means that they are freed from any question of guilt. You probably know where I'm going with this at this point.
I'm
Uh,
sure there's going to be a plot twist here. I can't wait.
but yeah, vindication is defined as the action of clearing someone of blame or suspicion. Obviously, Harry is supremely vindicated in this chapter as soon as the Quibbler article is published, and everyone admits that that they were wrong and he was right, and they're sorry. He literally has like people lining up to apologize to him. So yeah, Harry is definitely vindicated in this chapter. And then it also can mean to provide justification or defense for or to maintain a right to. So to provide justification or defense for or to maintain a right to. So that kind of fit with Umbridge. It's applicable when she first fires Trelawney. She feels vindicated in her successful attempt to remove a teacher who she thought was unworthy, right? She's basically been working towards this, being able to fire someone the entire book so far. And now that she's finally reached it, she's like, ah, yes, vindication. I've done my job. I've done what I wanted to do. But on the other hand, Dumbledore definitely feels vindicated when proving that she can't actually evict her from the castle. And when he gets to use her own rules against her, when he proves that he does actually have the ability to choose the new divination teacher, even though she says he doesn't. So, yeah, lots of vindication in this chapter, I thought.
Ooh, well, vindication all around, vindication for everyone, leadership for
Yes.
everyone from
It's
my
like
end.
it's like Oprah again, like you get vindication, you get vindication, you get vindication.
And then meanwhile, I'm like, kind of like Umbridge with my little clipboard. Leadership skills. Do you have what it takes?
Yes, exactly.
You have like the fun one, and I have like the, well, let me put on my glasses and my tweed jacket, and I have my checklist, and let's go. You are under observation now.
Yes, you got the a little bit more serious one. A vindication is definitely a lighter, happier topic for
Well,
this
because that means that
chapter.
there is, because I think it's because vindication means that there is some kind of justice in this world.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, evaluating leadership styles is like, well, there's shit and there's things that aren't quite shit. So, what would you like?
Take your pick. We'll move into the in-depth discussion.
So, when you're thinking about vindication, what's like the quote that or moment that comes to mind?
In this chapter, it was definitely when Seamus went up to Harry and apologized, said, like, I'm sorry, mate. I was wrong. You were right. And then also at the end where he goes, when he tells him that he sent a copy of the article to his ma'am. I don't know how do you say. I
Me,
can't.
ma'am,
Me ma'am.
ma'am,
Yeah,
me, ma'am. I don't know.
I sent a copy of the article to me ma'am. That was really bad. I never said I could do an Irish accent. I never said.
Oh gosh.
What about you? What was a quarter moment that leadership really showed itself here?
I thought that Dumbledore having that absolute foresight to have to have backup teachers ready to go at a
Oh
moment's
yeah,
notice, and letting fired professors stay within the castle or Hogwarts grounds
yeah,
means that he totally has like contingency plans for his professors, especially I'm sure Hagrid, Trelawney, and no, maybe Snape, but I don't think Umbridge is going to would get rid of Snape like that. But I think he has like contingency plans for all of these eventualities. Every time like an educational decree comes up, he's like looking at the fine print and looking at the implications. He's like, how can I get around this? Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Okay, cool, 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 cool. And he's like sending 20 owls every time. Like, it was beautiful. It's a beautiful moment.
yes,
Although I will say, having been, a person in a leadership position, and you think, how hard can it be? Actually, really hard, because people are trash and they want to, put a dagger in your back if you're in a really bad situation like I was. And having to protect yourself at all, like from all angles, is exhausting.
yeah. It actually takes a lot of skill to be a good leader, a good manager, and even the best managers I've ever had have shortcomings.
Oh, everyone
And
does. Yeah.
yeah, and so like it's nearly impossible to make literally everybody happy in every aspect of the job. So I do think that scene really does show how good of a leader Dumbledore is, at least in terms of his staff, his teachers.
And
I would
how good he is at protecting them from
Yeah.
all eventualities.
Yeah, like I definitely would want Dumbledore as a boss, like in my job. I think he would be a good boss.
Yeah, he's not like a a flawless leader, and that's not
No.
what we're saying at all.
No.
But also, part of me was really,
He's compassionate, at least.
was, yeah, that's true. But part of me was, maybe it's PTSD talking, but also like part of me really reached out to him in that moment for the first time ever as I'm rereading this, thinking, the amount of emotional reserves and intellectual drive that it takes to cover all bases of any eventuality when people are gunning for your job and for you and for your faculty. That takes a lot out of people emotionally,
Yeah.
physically, and
And
mentally.
on top of that, he always presents a calm demeanor. He never reacts in like rashly or in rage or with like really intense emotion. He's always calm. He's always even tempered, and he even like responds to Umbridge's ridiculous statements and attacks
He
and
doesn't give her
with a
enough rope.
smile.
He doesn't give her rope to hang him with.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that is an admirable trait that requires restraint and emotional maturity that very little people have.
yes,
And maybe he does have like the reserves to do that because he is not a man of color within the series. We should
maybe. Yeah,
also take that into consideration. The How much emotional reserves you have and how many, like, think of it as a bank, right? Like, so every day you wake up with like whatever currency you have. And every day you're giving of yourself to others, but society demands more of some people than others. So maybe Dumbledore, you know, has a lot of demands, but doesn't have the same amount of demands that maybe a woman of color in his position would,
yeah,
who would probably have less patient, less emotional, and other reserves at
yeah,
the end of the day to even do a capable job because so much is demanded of her.
yeah. No,
So yeah,
that's
so
definitely fair.
and that all those things just got me thinking, but also got me commiserating with Dumbledore because poor thing must be exhausted every day.
Yeah, he spans multitudes, as I like to say about you.
Thank y'all. I, to be compared with Dumbledore in such a way, wow, 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 wow. But
Yes.
Helene, who is the character that for you embodies vindication?
In this chapter, it's definitely Harry. I know it's the easy answer, but he is just so vastly vindicated so much in this chapter by everybody. And it was just so nice to see. So definitely Harry.
That's nice.
What about you? What about who is the best or I guess worst leader in the chapter for you?
For me, it was like the best example of like baby leadership was Angelina refusing to let Ron to
Oh,
give up on himself.
loved it. I love that. Yes.
And sometimes being a leader means saying the unpopular thing and doing and making unpopular decisions, like not letting Ron quit even though he really really wants to quit.
Yeah, well, and it's like it just shows how much foresight she has and like how like it was a very selfless act honestly because like she could have done the easy thing and just said, "Okay, leave. I'll get another keeper because it could be good for our team in in the shorthand like right away."
Short term, yeah.
Yeah, in the short term, it could be good for our team right now if I just let him quit. But she made the hard decision, let him stay, forced him to stay because not only would it could it possibly be good for the team eventually, but because it would be good for him.
Correct. And also I thought it was a beautiful moments or series of moments, because what
Yeah.
she is saying here is, I refuse to let you give up on yourself. I see potential in you. You just have to believe in yourself, and you're not doing that. You're second guessing yourself. And three, like, I am the boss and I am telling you, you are not allowed to quit. And so
Yeah.
she doesn't let him quit, and by not letting him quit forces him to live up to his potential. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. She was awesome in this chapter. So vindication throughout the book for me, I think we definitely see the ultimate vindication for both Harry and Dumbledore at the end of this book when Fudge finally, sees Voldemort back and admits that he has returned with his iconic, he's back line. And it's like, well, duh, we like they have literally been saying this the entire book, and now that Fudge is finally admitting to it, like they're finally vindicated from, being called liars and crazy people this entire time.
Yeah, from being gaslit by the
Yeah,
ministry.
ex-
Fantastic.
yeah, exactly. So they get to be vindicated at the end with Fudge. I mean, to be fair, they're vindicated by the majority of people other than Fudge before the end of the book, but for some reason, like, it seems bigger for Fudge to do it because he's, like, the head of the government at this point. So,
Yeah, well, when the head of the government admits something is wrong,
yeah,
is when shit just hit the fan. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. This doesn't actually happen, but I just thought it would have been nice if Sirius had the chance to be vindicated of his guilt before he died.
Publicly, yeah.
Yeah. And have his name cleared before he, was no longer there to like reap the benefits of being cleared. So it would have been nice to see that. So I know this guy that kind of ended on a sad note, but I
Yeah,
think that it,
I was like, let me take out my little violin.
yeah, it is sad. But what about you? What about leadership throughout the book?
Well, I thought this book, as much as I, a few episodes ago, or maybe even last episode, I was like, oh, this book is entirely about masculinity and
Yeah,
navigating masculinity. Now I'm just saying, like, well, this book is all about Harry finding his leadership style.
I think it's Harry finding himself a lot in the book for sure.
Well, which includes both of those aspects,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So Dumbledore's army is set up in this book by Hermione and thrusts Harry into a position of default leadership, and that forces him to think about what works for me, what works for others, like who can I emulate? A lot of
Yeah,
Lupin, he emulates a lot of Lupin's teaching style and a lot of maybe like McGonagall's type of like supportive but strict, but mostly I think Lupin for sure, like keeping it casual, keeping it fun, but still showing them how to do things. And how he can be a leader as a peer, which is really hard sometimes when you have a peer group. He has clout though, so that's helpful. But it's really hard for students to take another student seriously because they're the same age or around the
yeah,
same age.
yeah. He kind of gets like shoved into the deep end of the pool and finds out, hey, I'm a really good swimmer.
Yeah, and finds out like, oh hey, Michael Phelps, step aside.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Oh,
Well,
speaking of,
from
I don't know how to get out of like Olympic swimmer to Dementors and chocolate.
yeah, um, yeah, let's just go into our Dementors and Chocolate segment. So, for refresher for listeners, the Dementors and Chocolate is in the Dementor section. We discuss what we didn't like in the chapter, and in the Chocolate
Yeah, because it
section, we talk
sucks all the joy out of our bodies, much like Ted
exactly.
Cruz does.
But what remedies that feeling of hopelessness and despair is a bit of chocolate. Because eat, you'll feel better. And so another accent attempt there. I don't know if that one failed as much as the other one, but so when we get to chocolate, we'll talk about what we hold dear in the chapter. But let's get the bad crap out of the way first. So, Adri, what was your Dementor this chapter?
I was not amused by Ron's self-defeatist attitude. And that hurts my heart. Because as you know, me, a noted Ron apologist, I don't like it when people are like low on themselves and don't believe in themselves and seek a lot of external validation. Like, that's one of my pet peeves. Like, if you need me to hold your hand through something, I totally will.
I'm
But if you need me to
surprised.
hold your hand for like ever, and do nothing to help yourself or change your attitude
Yeah.
or seek help in a way where I'm not your main source of validation, yeah, that's not going to fly with me. Like, no.
Honestly, though, like, I'm surprised you're a Ron apologist then because he literally does this all the time.
This time though.
Boy lives off of external validation. He would
Okay.
literally shrivel
But
up
there
and
okay.
die without it.
Okay, but there are a lot of people who do though. Like I'm not saying those people are wrong because
No,
that's
yeah,
just a way of the way that you're built. But if you require this much work, like he does in these latest chapters,
yeah,
this much effort, or you require people to pour their emotional resources into you and you just keep on
yeah.
like taking it because you're so down in the dumps about yourself, my man, I can't do it. Like, I, like, no.
I know, yeah.
Like, women are not repositories for broken people, period.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. Ron spends a lot of the chapter being down on himself. Um,
I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have like some reason to be. It's just like
yeah,
it's the level of it is just completely off kilter to me.
yeah.
What about you?
Um, Not surprisingly, my Dementor is Umbridge again.
Oh, it was gonna be mine too, but then I was like, that is too predictable.
Well, I don't care about being predictable, but yeah. So mine is Umbridge's absolutely ridiculous abuse of power. When she gives Harry detention for literally doing something that has absolutely nothing to do with school, something that he did on his own time, uh, somewhere completely off campus, not during school time. Not, I mean,
And
like,
it wasn't even there wasn't a decree about it either.
yeah, no, it was just like, oh, you like took your time off of school, went to a completely different location, did something that had absolutely nothing to do with school, and I didn't like it, so you get detention. That is not how it works. You can't give detention for like non school related things. Like it's like if someone gave me detention for like eating pickles at home in the comfort of my own kitchen because they didn't like pickles.
That's where you're wrong. Detention all around for you, Missy, for eating pickles. Disgusting.
I knew you were going to react that way, but you have to agree that it is ridiculous to give it detention for something that has absolutely nothing to do with school or actions that were taken while at school.
I mean, gross. Pickles, gross. I just can't get over it. I'm sorry. You lost me there, sis. I'm sorry.
Man, I've just been like craving some pickles, you know?
All right, so let's talk about things that aren't disgusting like pickles and delightful
Chocolate.
like chocolate.
Ooh, chocolate and pickles. I wonder if they would taste like together. No, I don't. That would be really awful. That would be really gross. I love both of them, but not together.
You know, like mm-hmm.
I just made all of the listeners just like collectively like gag.
Oh, I threw up in my mouth a little. Like I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, to better things, what was your chocolate in this chapter?
Well, surprising no one. My chocolate was just that moment of Dumbledore outsmarting Umbridge in every single way and bringing in a centaur to teach divination, being like, listen, bitch, like, this guy does not need lodgings, so there's no reason for Trelawney to vacate her Hogwarts apartment or whatever. Just
Her Hogwarts
chef's
apartment.
kiss.
I just like how you phrased it.
We don't know how the teachers live. Do you know?
No, we really, really don't. That's true. But yeah, that's a good one. I mean, Dumbledore is a great chocolate, in my opinion. I love Dumbledore, as we all know.
What's your chocolate?
So yeah, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but it was literally just the entire section of people coming up to Harry and like apologizing, and because I don't know, I really really like identify with Harry in this book. every single time. So like when he was like stupidly happy with this large smile on his face, when with all these people admitting they were wrong and apologizing and coming up to him, I was literally just I was reading the whole chapter with my big goofy smile on my face, and it just made me really happy because I was happy because he was happy. I love him.
Aw, that was, yeah, it's cute. It's cute.
Yes.
Well,
So that was my chocolate.
thank you for sharing your chocolate with us. Hopefully, it had no pickles in it.
I will not be trying chocolate covered pickles anytime soon.
Okay. Anywho, last week we asked our listeners a question, and this question was, during Cho and Harry's date, who do you empathize with the most and why? Did we get some answers for that question, Helene?
Yeah, we got a couple of good ones. So the first one was from listener Jeff on Facebook. He said, get ready for this, okay?
Okay.
Hot take. I empathize with both characters because the person who is actually responsible for a lot of this is Hermione. I was like, whoa, I can't wait to read the rest of this when I first saw this. So, Cho is so traumatized by what happened to Cedric that she doesn't even realize she's rebounding with Harry because she's desperate for closure. Harry is traumatized by so many things he doesn't even know what to be upset about anymore by this point, so he should be sorting himself out before he goes on any dates. I agree. Hermione, meanwhile, is in the middle of all of this. She's full of all this insight about what's going on with Cho before the date and all this hindsight after the date, but she doesn't even have enough insight into her own friend's suffering to be able to say, I think you need to work on yourself first, Harry. And when she's telling Harry what he should have done, she even encourages him to tell shallow lies just to mollify Cho. I adore Hermione as a character most of the time, but the other side of being the one with the most brains in the group is that you sometimes forget to stop, think it through, and then help someone come to the right course of action when they need guidance, even if that's even what they need.
Well,
I,
first off, I just
yeah,
would like to compliment Jeff on writing such a great hook of the first sentence that made us keep wanting more.
yes, yeah, it was very well written. You get an A plus on your English paper today, Jeff. Um,
By a former English professor. You're welcome.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see where he's coming from. I think that I mostly agree because I honestly was kind of filled with like a very strong annoyance with Hermione when she was telling Harry like, "Oh, well, of course she responded like that. This is what you should have done. How could you not have known?" You know, and just expecting Harry to like have been able to like know all of this stuff when I mean Cho didn't say these things and you can't expect him to read her mind. And
You
yeah,
can't expect anyone to read minds, first of all.
yeah. And it was
Second
just
of
kind
all,
of annoying and it was annoying that Hermione expected him to know all that stuff.
I was like super annoyed on many levels in that moment because I was just like, okay, Hermione, like you tell me when you have like such a like high pressure interaction, like from the outside, it's
Yeah.
easy for you to dictate what should have been done
Yeah.
because X, Y, and Z, and we do this all the time. Like we pass judgments about how someone handled a
Yeah.
situation when you weren't in it. And if you're
Yeah.
not in it, you don't have the emotional response that was associated with being in that situation. And whether we like it or not, that is a big driver in how we interact with the world and how we see the world.
Yeah.
So it's condescending a little bit. And like, this is not the first and only time that Hermione is going to use her perspective as a way to like Hermione explain a situation.
Hermione's plain.
uh, yeah, like it's just like, oh yeah, that's what you should have done. Are you a dummy? And you're like, interesting.
Hermione,
Would have loved to have this insight before.
not everyone she I feel like she does sometimes forget not everybody thinks like she thinks. Um
And I think we are all guilty of that.
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And not to let that skate by from Hermione, still annoying. But I think
Yeah.
that one of our, as a society, or as I reflect upon myself, right, one of the biggest things that we must overcome in order to be more empathetic human beings is understand that the way that our brain works is not universal. So, for instance, me being like neurodivergent, like the way my brain works is like very circuitous and weird. And people are often like, how does your brain work? This is amazing. Like, you're a specimen. But if I am not conscious that I am projecting the way my brain works to other people, then I can make mistakes in assuming that someone knows something that they don't.
Yeah. So, yeah, while I was definitely annoyed by Hermione in that moment, I don't know if I 100% agree with Jeff that the entire situation was Hermione's fault.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. I don't think it helps
No. But
matters.
yeah, I think it's fair to say that yes, Hermione probably should have been able to recognize that both Harry and Cho probably were not in a position to, go on a date and have it be healthy. But even though Hermione might have been able to recognize that, I don't necessarily think that it was her responsibility to tell them not to go on the date. And they should still be able to make their own decision whether or not they feel ready to go on the date themselves.
Well, and there's so many variables involved. They're teenagers being like awkward, and
Yeah.
dating is awkward anyway, even as an adult. Like, who's to
Yeah.
say? But yes, Hermione did not help things. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Then we have another answer, I believe.
Yes. We have another answer from M_Padfoot on Instagram. They said both as they were both in terms of like who they empathize
Who?
with.
Yeah, yeah.
So they empathize with both as they were both coping with Cedric's death. Cho more so, and Harry had no idea how to interpret Cho's signals, which made the whole thing very awkward and difficult. Which, yeah,
I agree with that. I mean, they have what they have in common, what bonds them, other than him having a crush on her since like last book, right?
yeah,
It's it's that trauma that they both shared.
yeah.
And
Well, see, I think that that bonds Cho to Harry, but that's not why Harry is bonded to
oh, no, no, no.
Cho.
Correct. And you are completely correct. I misspoke. Yes, that's what binds her to him, but he already had pre-existing
Yeah.
feelings, like a pre-existing condition, if you will, for
Wouldn't
Cho.
be able to get a love insurance with that. You got a pre-existing condition.
Exactly. Ooh, love insurance. Can we market it?
I think so.
Coming soon from Akia Politics. Love insurance.
It covers all expenses having to do with heartbreak and love. So like
Ben and
it'll
James.
yeah, you can have like a you have a $200 deductible, but after that all your ice cream and like sad movies and albums are like covered by insurance.
And maybe wine,
Yes, wine for sure. Yeah.
but up to like a certain amount of time, and that amount of time is based upon like a calculation of like you know however long you were with that person divided by 6 or something.
Yes, there's a formula for, how long they will pay for you to grieve a relationship dependent on how long you were in said relationship. We've come up with an entire insurance system, and I think that this is actually like workable. We should make love
Yeah, this
insurance
is
a thing.
honestly, this is capitalism at its best,
Guys,
you
reach
guys.
out to us at akiopolitics@gmail.com if you would definitely buy into some love insurance. Would you get some love insurance? Let
Oh,
us
for
know.
sure. For sure. I would get some love insurance, and I'm in a like eternally binding contract. We'll have employ like it be mandated by employers too. It,
Yes.
all right, but let's stop talking about love insurance, but also email us if you want it. This week's question is, if you could choose any character in the series to be your boss or manager, who would it be and why? We also have a bonus question. Who would make the worst boss? And we're excluding Voldemort and Umbridge because they're so like easy answers. So, who would you want to be your boss and why? And then maybe if you want to answer our bonus question, who would make the worst boss and why?
You can tag us on all of our social media. It's at Aciopolitics on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Or you can send us an email at aciopolitics@gmail.com. Also, if you want, you can use the hashtag QOTW, stands for Question of the Week. I always add that hashtag to our social media posts with that. So if you wanted to just like tweet about it, you can tag us in it, or you can just use the hashtag and I'll look for it. And we will read your answers on the episode next week.
On this, the podcast that you're listening to. Well, speaking of podcasts you're listening to and media and bullshit, Helene, it's been a week. What have you
Yes.
been consuming this week?
Yeah, I mean, nothing too exciting. A lot of just like what I've said before, getting through Malcolm in the Middle a little bit more. The WandaVision finale was last week, cried my eyes out. I finally picked up the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series from Rick Riordan again. I had put it down for so long, but I have a goal to finish it by next Saturday, or next Saturday. So I am trying to, just get right through it and finish that, and I'm really enjoying it. But also, I finished Georgia and Jenny. I know on last week's episode I had just started it and I didn't really have an opinion yet. But I did finally finish it. I did, see the Taylor Swift joke that they made. And my final conclusion with, Taylor Swift joke and all is I like it and I recommend it.
Okay.
If you like strong women, if you like to see strong women in all aspects of life, age, gender expression, because we're talking about women, and like race, sexuality, all of that, I think it's a good show for you. So if you like strong women, you will like the show.
Well, speaking of strong women, I watched the Oprah interview with Harry and Meghan. Obviously, we talked
Of
about this
course.
earlier. But also, I've been watching, I spam multitudes. You know this about me, dear listeners. I love trash. I've been watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Legitimately one of my favorite franchises in the Real Housewives uh, universe, or as my husband now starts calling it, the Bravo cinematic universe. Um,
I like it. The
so
BCU.
the BCU. See, he always like kind of like sees me watching it, and like he'll like either walk by or he's like sitting next to me doing something unrelated, and then he'll ask like not a stupid question. He'll ask like a question about it, like, so what's their deal? And then I'll have to go like, okay, so she was married to so and so, and like have like do like all the recon
Does
stuff, and
he?
I feel like this is how he feels when he's explaining westerns to me.
So like when he asks, "Oh, so what's their deal?" Like, is he actually wanting to know?
Oh no, for sure he will not ask a question he doesn't want the answer to.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, he's not. So my husband is many things, many wonderful things, but one of the things he is not is one of those husbands who feigns interest
Interest.
in their wives' interests.
That's. I mean, honestly, that's a good trait to have. So
I mean, he's honest about it at least. Like, but he
yeah.
never makes me feel bad either. So like, there's men who make you feel bad
Yeah.
about your trash choices,
Oh,
and
you're
you're
like
like,
you're watching this stupid crap again. Why are you
and
wasting
you're
your
like,
time?
you like dumb sports where people run for a ball. Like fuck up, like fucking shut up, like.
Yeah.
So he doesn't make me feel bad about it. He's like, you like what you like, and it's fine. And I don't make him feel bad for liking, westerns or whatever, or
Yeah,
like playing D&D. Like, okay, so that's what you like. I'm so glad you find something you like. Like, it's not a big deal. We don't have to share everything.
totally.
We are 1 year in quarantine. It's been 1 year.
I know, right?
She says with the same trembling voice, she said, it's been 82 years.
Yes. It's been 1 year.
Well, but it's been great for our marriage, but there's a lot of marriages that did not survive quarantine
Yeah.
because they weren't used to spending so much time together and being so like on top of each other.
Yeah, I
Could
think
have been worse.
this quarantine really showed people the like how to figure out who the people in their lives are that they want to keep around.
Well, yeah, I mean, it made us kind of shed pretense and
Yeah.
move. I don't know. It's quarantine has been weird, guys. If you have any stories about how quarantine has been transformative for you, we'd love to hear them, even if they're
Yeah.
not Harry Potter
I got
related.
I got to say I am so excited for, 5-10 years down the road to like look back at this time and really see how it affected not only me personally, but the world, the country, like the long-term impact that it's going to have. I'm really interested to see what
Dude,
happens.
everyone's mental health is suffering. Mental health professionals can't even keep up with the demand for services. That's really eye opening for me.
Yeah, and like who knows, maybe the entire world is going to make a change and finally prioritize mental health services after this because of this. There are genuinely good things that could come out of this and obvious out of the genuinely awful things that have already happened.
Well, I mean, not gonna lie, it was extremely weird when I went to get my first dose of the vaccine because there were so many people there. And it's the most people I've been around in a year,
Crazy.
legitimately. And I was just like kind of elated to see other people, but also like wary of other people. And it was just like, am I agoraphobic now? Like, just so weird.
We're all going to leave this pandemic with a new phobia. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll just carry hand sanitizer with me everywhere and like Lysol spray, like spraying
Yeah.
everyone. Like,
Yep. Disinfectant is our new friend.
well, that's it for today's episode. Join us next week to talk about Chapter 27 of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And this one is titled The Centaur and the Sneak.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, take a second to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening right now. It helps new listeners discover the podcast and makes your co-hosts all happy and fuzzy inside because we love external validation.
Just like Ron. I mean, we are no different than Ron. This is...
We're a little different from Ron. I'm a little different from Ron.
You're so rude.
Well, I wasn't going to speak for you. You might say, hey, I am actually a lot like Ron, and I didn't want to say, no, you're not.
Just because I defend him a little bit doesn't mean I am him. God, so rude. Anyhow, until then, I am definitely not Ron. Politics managed. Support this show by going to patreon.com/Occhiopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at Occhiopolitics.com, and we are at Occhiopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@Occhiopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699. And you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Occiopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.